Leo runs BrightDigit, a company specializing in development in the Apple ecosystem. He's been developing for iOS for nearly 10 years and blogging about Swift since day one. He lives with his wife, Betsy, and 5 kids. Leo, why don't you tell a little bit more about yourself now that I've spilled the beans?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I've been doing, like Jeff said, about development in the Apple space for about 10 years. Um, iPhone, iPad, but also I'm really interested in other technologies like the Mac and the Apple Watch and even server-side Swift as well. Doing work for all sorts of clients, big and small. Could be a startup or could be a large corporation. And I've been running a podcast, empower.apps.show, almost close to my 50th episode pretty soon, where I talk about Apple technology and business and development.
Great, great. So what are you going to be talking about at UIKonf?
Well, I'm going to be talking about this year asynchronous programming and specifically all the different ways that Apple has provided us from old ways to new ways about how to develop apps in a multi-threaded fashion. In other words, we have these really powerful computers. I think it's cliche. An iPhone is a million times more powerful than the computers on the Apollo rockets. And one of the big things is we have these multi-core devices where we are going to be doing multiple things at the same time. And what's the most efficient way to do that? And with all this new stuff with SwiftUI and Combine, I think it's a great opportunity to refresh on that and understand what's the most optimal way, both for these devices, but also for developers to maintain these apps.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if even the watches are more powerful than...
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've heard even USB plugs are more powerful than those computers because they have to calculate power usage. So it's like even stuff like that. So you know, they could do a little bit more than calculate our trajectory to the moon.
That's crazy. So what do you expect that folks will take away from your talk?
I think what I'm hoping is getting a well-rounded picture of how asynchronous programming works, why it's important to run apps so that these devices can run most optimally, but also to write them in such a way that they can be well maintained and understand things like Combine, especially since that's really hot right now with SwiftUI, but also other ways of doing things like promises and dispatch queues and things like that.
Exciting. Do you run across many interesting challenges with asynchronous programming as a consultant, where you have to come in and sort of pull apart systems that maybe are not performing as well as you'd like?
Yeah, a couple of things. One thing is sometimes people run things on the main queue and freeze up apps. So that's a clear one. At the same time, a common thing that developers run into is not running on the main queue when they want to update the UI. That's a common issue that developers run into. Of course, there's things like race conditions where one thread is checking a value while another thread is writing to it, and you get all sorts of conflicts. I think that's a big part of it. But a lot of things, a lot of folks don't realize also just making these apps easy to maintain. Like, don't try to be too fancy and too optimal, but make it so that the next developer, no matter if they're novice or advanced, can be able to pick up on that and maintain that app in the future.
That's actually a really great guideline. Making things easier to maintain is always
absolutely
something you're going to benefit from.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, that's where a lot of the money is going to end up being spent, is maintaining those apps. Absolutely. Honestly, in the long run.
Right. I mean, if your app sticks around for any length of time, then somebody's going to have to maintain it, right?
Exactly.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing your talk, and I look forward to hearing more about the asynchronous programming stuff.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's been great chatting with you, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you.